Through the generous contribution of Dr. Lewis's family, we're very fortunate to be able to share with you these timeless recordings of Dr. M. W. Lewis, a self-realized American yogi. Dr. Lewis was Paramahansa Yogananda's first American disciple and dearest personal friend. The wisdom Dr. Lewis imparts through these teachings will give you a dynamic and practical insight into the ancient science of yoga as taught by Paramahansa Yogananda. This lecture's title is All Miracles Possible Today, and was delivered in San Diego, California on August the 9th, 1953.
The subject this morning, are miracles possible today? Yes, miracles are possible today if we conform to the law of miracles. Not too many years ago, if you told someone that machines would be flying around the way they are now, they wouldn't believe you. But when we conform to the law and offset gravity, then those things which are seeming miracles at the time, they become facts and realities. So miracles are possible if we conform to the law. And at this time I'd like to just give you the definition of miracles. Miracle is an event or effect in the physical world beyond or out of the ordinary course of things, deviating from or transcending the law of nature. I'll give one or two illustrations just to show you how a miracle means that some other law entered the picture rather than the ordinary physical law with which we are familiar. I'll make the illustrations brief to save time. One winter's evening in Boston, where we have lots of ice and snow, I was driving fast to the center meeting in a borrowed car. My sister's car, she was in the car, and one other lady, Sister Yogamata, who both are still living. And as we came up over the incline on this bridge, narrow bridge, covered with ice, halfway across the bridge was this car that had skidded and had stayed blocking the path, blocking the road. Ordinarily, according to ordinary laws, there was no way of stopping. But somehow, I remember just feeling in my heart, well, here's the borrowed car, I'm rushing to do God's work, and look what's going to happen. And as I came up over the bridge, there was just like a big giant stood and just pushed, and that car stopped, within just 2 or 3 feet of the other car. In other words, another set of laws was brought into play. Both the people are living, you can ask them, all felt the intercession of God's higher law, which prevented that accident. Because the pranic force of God's great power and His omniscience is everywhere. If you appeal to Him, His power does not need wires or instruments of hands and feet or machines. It can work according to higher law in the way which we would call a miracle. One other instance comes to my mind, which you've read of in the magazine, the last magazine I wrote about it, the sound of the voice in my father's home that spoke to me. When I was a young fellow, into lots of mischief, doing lots of things I shouldn't be doing, this voice came right out of the ether, distinctly, loudly, not from any point in space, but from all around, and told me to behave myself and be a good boy. And not only I heard it, but others heard it in the house, showing that the ordinary law of sound, of speech, was superseded by a higher law of God's omniscience. So there you have, in a few words, 2 illustrations of what a miracle is, of what miracles are. Perhaps the greatest miracle is what we have right with us now. How? From the one great light, from light, the miracle of light, with its inherent subtle characteristics, as I shall try to point out in a few words this morning, how from that one light of God's omniscience, His mind, His thought, has produced this universe upon universe with all its various multitudinous manifestations. From light, because science has proved, those of you who are familiar with it, that matter resolves into energy, finally into light. And they also have now brought it back the other way, produced from light, energy, and matter. So that's the greatest miracle, and that's what we have to deal with in this subject this morning. Are miracles possible today? Because the entire phenomenal world is under the law of polarity, duality. It's that duality that has caused all the trouble and all the delusion. The duality which comes from the characteristic of the light of God. This subject is a little scientific, so I shall have to refer to a few references. I will try, though, not to make it too boring. But just, never mind, grasp the important parts, and remember that Jesus didn't say, now you must know all about the law of miracles. See, He didn't say that, if you're going to enter the kingdom of heaven, which is a miracle. No, all He said was, be like little children. Be humble, see? You have to get above outward consciousness, above ego consciousness. Then you can enter the kingdom of heaven. So, if this is too much for you, these scientific facts are too much, just forget them. And in your heart, feel the presence of God, and you will get the same result. You will know the light beyond the atoms from which all things have come. And so